Mā te whakaatu ka mōhio, mā te mōhio ka marama, mā te marama ka mātou, mā te mātou ka ora. Nau mai te wānanga. Welcome to Mata with me, Mihingarangi Forbes, brought to you by te Māngai, Pāho and Irirangi te Motu, New Zealand on Air. He nui ngā taki hei wānanga mā tātou I tēnei hōtaka. First, we'll be speaking to Labour's Willie about the demise of Newshub, what it means for Māori journalism and the wider broadcasting landscape. Then we'll catch up with Green Party co-leader Marama Davidson about the passing of Efeso Collins, the election of a new co-leader and the review of kai in schools. Now, last week it was announced that TV3's Newshub would end all operations in June. It's estimated around 300 people will lose their job and spells the demise of a 35-year journalism legacy. The news comes as the government prepares to hear submissions on a fair digital news bargaining bill, which many media outlets say could be a lifeline for the industry. The bill seeks to create the condition for fair bargaining and negotiation between New Zealand news media entities and digital platforms like Google and Facebook. We invited the Minister of Broadcasting, Melissa Lee, to share her views, but she didn't respond to our requests by the time of this recording. We also asked Broadcasting Under-Secretary Jenny Marcroft, but she declined. So too did Minister for Māori Development, Tama Pōtaka. Hoi anō. Joining us instead is Labour's broadcasting spokesperson and former Minister of Māori Development, Willie Jackson. Tēnā koe e Willie, tēnā koe mō tō whakai mai kia hono mai kia mātou. Some 300 jobs are on the line following the Newshub announcement. Can the industry absorb that? What are your predictions?
Oh, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. I see them as being almost part of it. You know, it's like infrastructure. You know, they're such an integral part of the country. And it's like, I suppose, if the Auckland Bridge gets knocked over, we go in and fix it up straight away. You know, Cook Strait ferries. You know, I see media the same way. That we should be looking for ways to support a Newshub. You know, there should be some type of facilitation process that the government should have offered, or mediation or facilitation process. When you think about Chris Luxon and the multi-millionaire and John Key, they've got every business interest in town that they seem to know, and they pride themselves on knowing all these business interests. So I don't expect them to prop up obviously a multi-billion-dollar company that with billions and billions. The Warners of their overseeing company. Of course, the government shouldn't underwrite that, but why shouldn't the government show some more interest and look at facilitating and looking for business partners and ways out and strategies? You know, like just to walk away and say, oh, well, you can watch Sky TV and that's how it goes. That's the market. The market is broken. So therefore, we have to find ways of assisting and supporting Newshub, particularly given the history, given your history. You know, you've made a wonderful contribution. Māori have been involved in the setup, and it's just a real indictment on this government that they're actually doing nothing.
Should foreign companies wanting to operate within Aotearoa be made to make news? You know, should that be part of the kind of contract, the deal to operate in our country?
All these types of rules, in my view, should have to be brought in. We have to bring in some regulations. You see, the Nets just want a totally unregulated market, no rules, anything like that, and it's not right. That's why we have tried very hard as a government to support a new type of sector. You know, in our ideal world, when I came in, I took on the merger, and the principles of the merger still hold today, and that's why Newshub supported that. But obviously, cost of living overwhelmed us, and but in an ideal world, you'd want a network where all the advertising was paid for, so the market was freed up for a Newshub. You know, that's your ideal world, but obviously cost of living overwhelms those types of ideas.
What impact could it have on Māori broadcasting?
could be major impacts on Māori broadcasting, because if Newshub closed down, and it looks like it's going to close down, you're going to have a lot of journalists flood the market. So the pressures go on Māori mediums, Māori TV, Māori radio. And you've got broadcasters who need work, and you won't blame them, and you can't blame them for going to Māori television or going to Māori radio, and good luck to them. But that's a lot of pressure on those entities who, and you'll have the bosses who are conflicted in terms. You've got a lot of skilled people who'll be available, mate.
Will there be a journalism brain drain, you reckon?
Yeah, well, there could also be. A lot of Pākehā people taking Māori people's jobs. You get the best people, and that's good. But even in the past, Mihi, you've seen at Māori television, the majority of senior management at times have been Pākehā. In past years, you've been part of it. I'm not saying that's bad, but we should be developing and supporting, our own, and some of our own might be finding themselves out of work. It's really a worry in terms of the pressures, in terms of Māori broadcasting. Also, the whole nature of Māori broadcasting might change, because there's so much. The options are limited. So the pressure to be doing mainstream stories that are not with a Māori perspective or Māori angle. There's so much pressure that could come onto Māori broadcasting. It does worry me.
When we consider the wider industry, you introduced the Fair Digital News Bargaining Bill. Is that dead in the water now? When you look to Australia, Facebook stopped paying for news in Australia. They're not going to uphold the negotiations that they had negotiated prior to this. Should we be banning organisations like that from operating in our country? What's the possibility there?
Well, my view is the Fair Digital Bargaining Bill should never should be probably more relevant than ever, because we're talking about news organisations being paid for their news after these big digital companies just take their news, profit off their news, and make record profits. We're talking about these organisations like Meta and Google making, we're talking about like $800 and $200 million a year. Why shouldn't they be paying the news agencies, the Māori televisions, the Ashford and Guardian, these types of newspapers, small papers, bigger setups like Māori TV, like stuff? Why shouldn't they be paying their way instead of just taking their news? And so, what we worked out, my officials told me when I was broadcasting minister, was that it would put about $50 to $60 million straight back into the marketplace, with the possibility of that tripling over time. So this is the.
Did you leave it too late? Did you leave it too late though?
Well, we got it set up. We could have put the whole thing through, and then National could have just chucked it out, right? That's what they do. They just chuck out everything anyway. The main point is that it's on the books now. It's in Parliament now. I'm on the select committee. We've got a Minister Melissa Lee, who has opposed this, and now when questions are being asked of her, Mihi, she's just disappeared off the face of the earth. No one can.
Well, what do you make of her response? What do you make of the broadcasting minister's response?
Disgraceful. I think her response has been a disgrace for someone who's been a senior broadcaster and apparently knows this game, but she won't be interviewed by you or National Radio or the AM show or the breakfast show. She just disappears. So right in the middle of all this angst and depression and people, huge stress, the minister, the main person here is the minister in terms of government with regards to this kaupapa. She basically declined, I think, 95% of interviews. And I think it's disgraceful. And why has she done that? Because they don't have a strategy. They don't even have a broadcasting strategy. They don't respect the broadcasters. They want to leave everything to the market, Mihi. Yeah. The market is broken, and it needs innovativeness and creativity from a minister in government to support an entity like Newshub.
Are you concerned about the future of TVNZ, given Minister Seymour's comments late last week about splitting the entity into two?
He should try and work in tandem with the board. I think he what was it? What he was talking about? He was talking about them paying a dividend. They can't pay. You can't pay a dividend if you're losing money. And, I am concerned about TVNZ with people like David Seymour around, but they are trying to do the right thing. We put in a board in place, and they're trying to do the right thing in terms of being
Shouldn't Mr. Seymour, he's expecting a return for all of the investment that's put into TVNZ, particularly with their big losses at the moment. I mean, something has to happen. Isn't he just suggesting an option?
Well, I haven't heard what his latest option is, but they need to be given some support going forward to TVNZ. They've just got a new board, and we need to actually see what they've got a program for the next few months or the next year in terms of, what's their support in terms of public broadcasting. What are we going to see in terms of a range of programs? I think that's the priority for TVNZ, is we want to see a national view, a national voice. So it's all it's all in front of them. But I think Mr. Seymour, he just wants to see. He just wants to see money coming. It's all about the getting dividends back. It's all about funding. He's not looking at the story. He's not looking at the future in terms of TVNZ.
Can we look at the Waitangi Tribunal has approved an urgent inquiry into policies impacting te reo Māori. It's spearheaded by Aotearoa. The claim has a lot of support from powerful iwi. When you're out and about, what are you hearing from Māori about these policies?
Tremendous angst and worry in terms of where we're going in Te Ao Māori, because everything seems anti-Māori. We just finished getting rid of them. They just finished getting rid of the Māori Health Authority. There's been kōrero in terms of people who learn our language and who are experts not getting paid for that extra skill in terms of employment. They want to take Māori names away in terms of some of the government agencies. A lot of people are very sad and wonder what's going to happen next. So, I think any tribunal claim that looks at how the government is treating te reo Māori is incredibly important. We want to whakamane our reo, not whakaiti our reo. And that seems to be the strategy from this government. It's really, really disappointing. We've had the smoke-free laws just go through. Māori hugely affected with that. We're going to have thousands of extra, too many Māori die, and they're going to be affected by the smoke-free laws. It just goes on and on, Mihi.
In terms of the te reo claim, you do have reo Māori speakers who are in this current coalition who say that te reo Māori can survive if it's just spoken at home.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got two kai kōrero on the other side, as far as I know, which are Shane Jones and Tama Pōtaka. Of course, te reo Māori can survive. We all know that, but all the experts that I know, and the same experts, have told us that it needs as much assistance and support as possible. It's not just about at home, that they need the resources out there, whether that's at wānanga level, university level, community level. We need to have constant investment into the strategy. So of course it'll survive at home, but you need to resource our teachers, our schools, our universities, mātāwai, all of them have to be resourced. So that's a simplistic response from two people, Shane Jones and Tama Pōtaka, who should know a heck of a lot better. Both do know better, but they choose to play the political game rather than the Māori game.
Tēnā koe e Willie, tēnā koe e whaiwā ki te kōrero kia mātou o mata. Thank you for taking the time today. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
You're listening to Mata with me, Mihingarangi Forbes. Last week, Green MP Efisel Collins was farewelled in the heart of his South Auckland community, having passed away during a charity fun run. Just a week earlier, Collins had delivered his powerful maiden speech to Parliament. It's been another blow for the Greens after a rough start to the parliamentary year, including the resignation of co-leader James Shaw and the controversial departure of Golriz Garanam. Hoeno, hei matapaki I ngā take nui kei mua I te aroaro o te Pāti Kākāriki, ko hono mai te kaiarahi takirua a Marama Davidson. E te tuakana tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, te maraikura, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, kia ora.
I te tuatahi ka tuku ōku whakaro nui ki a koe o te rā ki a koutou I te Pāti Kākāriki, I te ngarohanga o tōhoa a Efeso. It's been a week for you and your party. How difficult has it been to come back to work?
Me mihi ka tika I te tuatahi kia rātou te whānau pane a Efeso, kia Fia, Capriela me Asalemo, me Mamaloto mau, and their loss of Efeso. He taumaha nui tēnei. This is a heavy loss, and we are sprinting back at the office. Today I have arrived back in Parliament for the first time since Efeso passed nearly 2 weeks ago, and we still actually can't fully grasp and come to terms with him just being gone. It feels like he's so much still a part of us, and at the same time we are up fighting against some quite heinous policy decisions from this government. So it all feels a little chaotic, if I'm honest.
Let's just jump into it. Broadcasting Minister Melissa Lee did not respond to our invitation to come on and discuss, but she also hasn't really commented on how this coalition will manage broadcasting in light of the mass job losses expected from Newshub come June. In your opinion, should the government be offering some stability to the sector?
Yes, without a doubt, yes. We need a strong and independent media sector for any, I think, functioning democracy, if we like, or if we put it another way, to make sure that we've got journalists who are able to maintain their independence and integrity across the board. So I also, mihi, I want to mihi to the human situation of this as well, which is real people losing their jobs, losing their stability, losing their livelihoods in quite a shock move. And I do want to uphold that part of this conversation. These are workers and like all other workers, and these are also journalism itself is something we need to be protecting and strategizing around its important role in holding places of power to account particularly. And I'm going to hang this on successive governments, mihi. There should have been some deep thinking about how to protect journalism that is integral to a functioning democracy.
This morning, Transport Minister Simeon Brown has announced its transport statement, which would see 15 new roads of national significance, a new road efficiency group and a new fund to fix potholes. All this will be achieved by charging motorists more by raising the cost of car registrations, road tolls and eventually an increase in fuel. What do you make of it?
It's heinous. We can instead be supporting more choices for whānau, for people to be able to get around. We can instead be, and we must be, supporting reducing our emissions and protecting our environment, which is not done by focusing on and prioritising only roads. We all know that more highways actually do not reduce congestion. And what is quite a bit of a slap in the face is that to fund these roads, they are going to disproportionately impact on middle and lower income households the most with the cost increases. But they are also robbing from the public transport investment and infrastructure that our communities badly need, especially our middle and lower income communities, mihi. So it's not surprising, unfortunately. Simeon and the national government have shown only contempt for reducing our emissions and for more efficient public transport for everyone to have more choices. But it is heinous all the same.
Minister Brown argues that some of the things that they're reducing the spend on, like the walking and cycling tracks, were, his words, gold-plated tracks, and few people even use them. I mean, do you agree? Is there some sense in what he's saying that when you're talking about the people who are going to be impacted by this cost, like the lower income families, were they using the cycling tracks?
And this is precisely why we need to improve those choices for those whānau. He is removing that choice. He has made it quite clear that he is going to force more and more people to only have to use a car. And he has reduced choices. If we were to properly invest in making cycling and walking tracks more accessible, more available, more enjoyable, then more people would have a healthier choice for them, but also a healthier choice for our mokopuna generations to come, for our planet. He is reducing that choice. He is robbing people of that choice. The thing here is, Mihi, is he's playing off the future of transport must include alternative options for getting around than being car dependent. That is not debatable. But the fact that he is playing that off against roads and against narrowing choices down to just cars, when instead we actually have enough to be funding proper walking and cycling choices and public transport choices, if we were to distribute tax far more fairly. And so him playing off public transport and walking and cycling for roads and just car use is very heinous.
He says that the ETS will play a critical role here. I'm interested in this because fossil fuels, in this case petrol, come under what we call the emissions trading scheme, or the ETS. So burning fuel creates greenhouse gases and they have to be offset by carbon credits. Will this affect New Zealand's ability to meet climate change requirements, do you think?
Yes, of course. We are not going to be able to meet climate change in reducing our polluting emissions into the climate, Mihi. The first priority must be to reduce emissions. And again, Mihi, it is our regional and rural communities, heavily populated with whānau Māori. It is our lower income communities who more prominently live on floodplains in cities and towns, who will be far more impacted and far more harmed by extreme weather events caused by that global warming. And so not only is he not going to be able to reduce emissions, but this again is going to have the strongest impact on people already struggling and already vulnerable. And that is, this is what I can't think of any better word than heinous.
Let's talk about Kai in schools. The Green Party policy around meals in schools was to expand the program. This government has it on the review list. At what cost do we allow our poorest and most vulnerable children to go hungry?
At a generational cost, not just for our whānau who they shouldn't have to be in poverty right now, but we have absolutely successive governments have made political decisions to entrench poverty in some schools and communities. That has an intergenerational harm, Mihi. But we need to understand it is a value that this country should uphold in and of itself, to not let tamariki be starving, to not let tamariki be hungry. That in itself is an achievement, is a goal and a value that we should all uphold. Now, on top of that, when you get down on the ground with the schools like we have, to your local schools, to those schools who have been able to build their own infrastructure, to provide their own kai, working with their local community providers and cooks, and have been able to take the time to work out what the kids really eat and have a nutritious, healthy meal every single day, that actually is cost effective, and it is having a positive impact on their learning, on their ability to be at school in good spirits, on their ability to not be hungry while they're trying to concentrate. So I don't know where he's getting his rubbish evidence from. Things would be worse if we were to take the food and lunches away from schools.
Minister Seymour says that 10,000 meals a day go to waste. Would an audit be in? Could you review it? Could you audit it? Could you tighten up the program?
Absolutely should. We absolutely should review it. We should get down on the ground with schools, with health providers, with particularly Māori and Pasifika health providers in Māori and Pasifika schools and low-income area schools, who surely are the best placed to be able to tell politicians what is happening in their school and how they have been able to reduce waste, how they have been able to make sure that they find a balance of kai that our kids will eat. And those of us who are mama, we know how rough a job that is. and how they have been able to see the improvements in their tamariki learning, in their tamariki well-being, and in the community aspect of it. Yes, absolutely, we should review. David is simply wanting to find desperate revenue to fund landlord tax cuts, to fund the wealthy getting enormous tax cuts, which they do not need.
Turning our attention to the Greens now, can you give us an update on the run for co-leader? What's the process?
Yeah, sure. This weekend, we will be finalising all of the ballots are due in, I believe, by Friday this week. We will have an announcement to come on the new co-leader over the weekend, I believe, on Sunday. So that's a rough schedule. So by Monday next week, the country will have another co-leader beside myself.
Ka pai, and a new MP is set to join your Dr. Lawrence Shunan, looks to set to enter Parliament. Can you tell us a little about him?
Oh, the fabulous Dr. Lawrence Shunan, who celebrates, as alongside being a Kiwi, has Chinese heritage, who is a staunch fighter for tiriti, another tangata tiriti, like Efeso was, to join our ranks. It's a bit weird, hey, for all of us, and particularly for Lawrence, who is coming in a bit earlier than he expected. There was always going to be a replacement come in once James eventually steps down, right? But that has been sped up in a shock to losing Efeso. So he actually gets sworn in Mihi this Thursday. So I do acknowledge both holding space to celebrate the long-standing staunch advocate he has been for justice, for tiriti, for ending racism, for protecting our climate and environment. He has long been a leader in our community, not just in Chinese communities. And so we celebrate that, of course, and we also recognise his personal mamae in the way that he has come in to replace a dearly loved colleague. But we will absolutely welcome him and mihi to him and bring him into this space to allow his gifts to add to our kaupapa as well.
Tēnā koe te tuakana, kia ora. Matapakehia arohaihaitia tēnei ao tō rangapū kia Marama, kia oro tau, ko te wānanga a mata e tau nei mo tēnei wā. Ka nui te mihi ki te Māngai Pāho me irirangi te motu, nā rāua tēnei hōtaka I taunaki. We'll be back in a fortnight. No hora mai.